Hey everybody, Andrew with Suds to Success podcast. On this episode, we have Nick from Advantage Insurance Brokers here today talking about insurance and what type of insurance you need, why you need it, and we also have different stories with different claims he's seen, which is very interesting. Let's get on with the show. Alrighty, welcome to episode 29 of Suds to Success podcast. My name's Andrew.
I'm Ercan.
And that's
Nick.
There we go.
Yeah,
All right.
Advantage Insurance Brokers.
Welcome to the show. So we thought this was a great episode to kind of, we talk about insurance, we talk about having kind of your ducks in a row and you protected, but we wanted to have an expert. I'm going to kind of preface this. Obviously, like and subscribe to the podcast. If you're on audio, follow the podcast, do comments, do all that stuff. And we're on all short form content. I'm going to preface this how I met Nick. So I was with another insurance company before. Ercan hits me up. I was complaining about my insurance company because the services wasn't good. He goes, wait. You gotta, and Ercan, if you watch the show, you know I give him a lot of advice. So when Ercan gives me a golden nugget in like a plate that just hands it over to me, I am super surprised. I'm like, where did this come from? Why haven't you told me about this? But it happens. It's happened tons of times over our friendship, but it's been a lot of me giving him advice. So when he gives me this, he goes, I got a guy. I'm like, yeah, sure, I got a guy too. He goes, no. You got this guy specializes in detailing. I'm like, all right, fine. Like, let's see. You know, like, and you can say specialize in anything. I mean, that's how my brain worked. So I hit up Nick, go on the online, punch it in. And if you're in Ontario or Alberta, hit him up. I'm telling you, he can cut your insurance rate in half. It's what he cut mine. So I reached up to him, did the online quote thing. It was kind of confusing. So I called him. I'm like, hey, like, I don't know what I need. I'm like, but here's my policy. This is what I have now. He's like, excellent. I'm like, okay. He goes, I will get back to you in 2 weeks. Next day, guy's a quote there. And I'm like, holy, like, this guy is fast. And I look at him like, wow, this is actually very good. And I'm like, this is the exact same coverage. He goes, well, yeah, and I think it's a little bit better. And he kind of talked with me over it. And it's a lot easier. It's like my other insurance policy. And I don't want to scare you guys. Like a lot of people, like I have another friend who is against insurance and like anything government or anything, doesn't want any of that at all. I'm like, okay, like it's expensive. I'm like, dude, it is not. It's like nothing. And kind of where I wanted to go off that was I talked to Nick and whatever. With this insurance company, I don't even have to, like, the other one's like, what's your drivers? Give us their abstracts, do this. I'm like, oh my God. Like every time I'd hire an employee, which wasn't often, but I have to, if something else I had to remember, it's like, here's their license. They took me 3 weeks for them to insure them. It's like, we don't know their price yet. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, my business is driving cars around. Nick's like, yeah, just send us your license. You know, this insurance company's pretty forgiving with that type of thing. So as long as we know how many employees you have, you're good. I'm like, oh my God, where have you been my whole life, Nick?
And well, you know, I've been hanging out up here in Waterloo. That's where I have been. Well, no, it's you know, it's so funny that, you know, as you guys as small business owners, when people say, hey, you know, oh, you make it look so easy. Oh, you guys are so fast. Oh, you guys are so good at your job. If that's detailing, you know, you guys I know are getting into tinting and other things like that. You're like, you know, you just see the end point of how you got there. You don't see how long you've built up to get to that point. So for me, like a little bit of background for me. So I've been where I am right now at Advantage Insurance Brokers coming over 4 years. I've been doing detailing, kind of specializing in detailing insurance for the last 4 years. It's bread and butter. It's what I specialize in for what I do. So when I have relationships with insurance companies, when you do the online quote and things like that, the insurance companies wouldn't give us their rates. So what I did over a period of time was I figured, hey, it's like, hey, you know, you're in Windsor or you're in Brampton or you're in another area, you know, you detail, most vehicles that you detail are under 100,000. I was able to actually back work the rate to figure out what that online quote is that you guys have to create that funnel. And that, you know, it creates most of the information that I would need in order to quote. I give you a call and I say, hi, you know, my name's Nick. I'm a real person. I'm not a bot. I'm not selling your information to a third-party source and all that stuff. And, you know, we have a conversation and we say, hey, you know, online you say you do, you know, oh, I do all these exotic cars. But in reality, you might do one a quarter for something like that, right? So it's like, you know, you have these conversations, you have these experiences with people that you can make the process easier. And for me, for example, like when I deal with insurance companies now, they know me, they know the work that I do and the clients that I deal with. So then they're able to be so much quicker, and they're able to get you the best pricing possible because there's volume discounts and things like that, which is cool. But for me to get feedback, because a lot of the time insurance is a grudge purchase for a lot of people. Like, who wants to buy insurance? Peace of mind, yes, but at the end of the day, it's that. But when I hear it's easy, or I hear I save money, I have the proper coverage, that's what I like to hear. It's good feedback for me, because I know that all the work that I've put into it has gotten us to this point, and I'm looking forward to continuing to keep on trucking along and being around for the next 15, 20 years.
Brother, when I tell you my first reaction, I said on the podcast, and I'm like, it wasn't just easy. I'm like, I've met the Andrew of insurance, because like my whole shtick of my business is automation. I love pipelines, I love funnels, I love everything. And people that watch stuff know that. Like, my business is so automated, and and you're just like, and it was so, I'm like, oh my God. I like when I look at other businesses, because like I don't deal with a ton of other business, but when I find one that's like so to the point, it's quick. It's literally 2 days. You literally have my signature on the line. It's like, okay, now give me your money. I am so happy to give you my money, because I'm like, this was such an easy thing. I just give you the reins and everything was done and it was perfect. And it wasn't just easy. It was like, I trusted you as an expert, and you came from Ercan. I don't trust everyone Ercan sends me. So if anything, it might have been a disadvantage, but
I found the guy, bro.
You did. And I remember, because I'm like, I don't plug a ton of businesses on this podcast. I just don't. I'd rather have them on. And it was like right in the beginning, I'm just like, hey, we got to plug this guy right away. So I'm like, I was so happy. And it was just so thought out. And that's the other thing. I didn't understand insurance. So like my other insurance brokers, like, yeah, I have specialized in automotive detail. They all tell you that. You actually do. Like, the questions you asked me made sense. I got a dealer, a service plate, and I put it through my other insurance company. Like, oh yeah, you don't need any insurance slips with it. I go, what if we're in an accident? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. You're like, yeah, well, it's a pain. Then I got to print them out. I'm like, like, it's time to change.
Yeah.
Like, and like, so it made such a difference. So what I kind of want to do is, what does what insurance does every auto detailer need? So when I first started, I was with a different company, and they only gave me liability. So obviously that's not true, knowing what I know now. But that's what they told me all I needed. And I just believed them, because I was, 20, 21. I'm like, I own a business and I need insurance. And that's what they told me. So and this is obviously I would assume it's the same in Ontario and Alberta, which is where you can give insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
just before we just preface, for myself, I am a licensed broker in Ontario and Alberta. I just wanted to say what I'm saying now, and I do have to say this, is that if each individual has their unique circumstances, so it's best to speak to an actual broker, because every situation is different. But just for myself, I just have to say that. I can kind of talk about the general side of what's important to look for, just kind of the basic coverage, and then we can kind of say, hey, what to look for, A, in a broker, and B, in an insurance company, and what coverage to look for. So in Ontario, I'll start with that. So there's two kind of policies that you deal with. So the first one that everyone that kind of talks about, Andrew, like you said, is it's like a commercial general liability policy, a CGL policy. So what that covers things like in your shop for like a slip and fall. So let's say a customer comes in, they slip and fall, they injure themselves, premise liability. That's what that covers. What it can also cover is your tenant's legal liability. So with that policy, it can cover things like if you rent a shop, for example, you actually start a fire, you cause damage, in your unit, in your landlord, and it's their betterments improvements, and they say, hey, you have to fix this, and they come back and say, hey, they sue you as a result. That's what the tenant's legal liability covers. As well as the other thing that's also it's important that it covers is something called is customers' vehicles that are not in your care. So let's say that you complete a work, give you an example, like this is more common for garages. Let's say you complete an oil change, right? You complete an oil change, you don't put the oil filter on properly, or you over tighten it. There's a leak, something that happens, the engine blows up or something like that happens. Or for detailing, it could be, water gets into the electronics, which then forces a vehicle not to work anymore. Something goes on and it's not in your care anymore. That's what the liability policy covers. The other one is it's called a few things. It's called the OAP4, the Ontario Auto Policy, number 4, and that's a garage auto. So that covers a customer's vehicles that are in your care, custody, control. So that can cover things like service plates, customers' vehicles if they park it overnight, or the biggest thing where we see the most claims are when employees are driving a vehicle. So they're going to pick up someone's vehicle, they're doing a test drive, they're going to the dealer to do that. They're involved in an accident, they're on their phone, something like that. They run into someone or someone runs into them. That's what that garage auto policy covers. In Alberta, it's not called the OAP4, it's called the SPF4, but it's the same type of guidelines that it is in Ontario. Those are kind of the two kind of basic, and then you can add other things like coverage for your contents, business interruption, equipment breakdown. So I know in other podcasts that you've talked about, lightning striking and all your equipment's fried. Right, that's what that equipment breakdown covers the equipment when you're not willing. That makes, especially too, you get into plotters, you get into other things that adds up pretty quickly, right? So my number one thing is I tell people, if you're gone for the weekend, unplug it. That's unplug your plotter over the weekend and other things like that, because sometimes there are power surges, and when they come, it's hard to replace, or it's hard to fix a machine. The whole thing has to be replaced.
Yeah, I should do that. We don't do that. It's sitting on. I have a surge bar, but in my building, actually, last year, 2 years ago, it's 640 into the building, so it's industrial power, and they bring it down to 120. And our utility company screwed up the lines and put 640 into the line below it, so it's kept constant power into the building, fried everything in the building.
Oh, geez.
But my stuff was fine because my alarm company called me and said, there's something funky going on with your battery backup. It keeps going in battery backup. And I'm like, oh, and I wasn't that far. So I pulled in. All the lights were like strobing like a haunted house. I'm like, yeah, let's unplug everything. And nothing to mine fried, but the landlord fried everything. So it is, you're very thankful for that. So this is my other question. We don't have this in our questions, but this is me as a business.
Sure.
What happens? So let's say, how do I know when to put a claim through? So, for example, I'll tell you this in the last podcast. Cracked a Tesla window. It was $1,000. So I'm not going to put that through insurance. If I have the money, and my deductible, I think, was quite similar to that. So when is the time to do a claim? And also, what I know it's going to be different for everybody. What are the types of repercussions? Let's say my employee was on their phone and they hit somebody in a customer's vehicle. What type of repercussions can I be prepared for as a business, roughly? This isn't like a numbers and cents type thing, but just because I'm afraid to do anything. Like, I don't want to touch my insurance policy. Like, I like the way it looks. I'm like, oh yeah, please keep me at that nice rate. I know if you don't make them upset, they'll keep me at a good rate. So kind of what would I expect? Like, what does that look like?
Again, it's one of those questions where it depends. So for example, as a detailer, in the summertime, are you going to put in, let's say, a $2,000 claim? Probably not, because you guys have the cash flow, you have all that stuff going on. The wintertime, that's a different story, right? Like with cash flow and putting it in, if it's a pain in the butt customer, would you rather have the insurance deal with it versus, you have to pay for your, to pay for their person to do it. I know, Andrew, you mentioned in the other podcast, you said that in your waiver, you have say, hey, who you deal with, and that's who it has to go to, which is fantastic because that puts the power back into you. And, the people who can do it, they can give you a preferred pricing and whatnot. But it really depends. I think that's the importance of a broker, to have a conversation with you is, hey, it doesn't make sense to put it through. Doesn't make sense to pay out of your own pocket. And then like repercussions, like, if it's a small claim, because a lot of these times, like, when people are detailing and things like that, like, the claim is under $5,000 or under $10,000 most of the time. If you put a claim like that, like your insurance premium might go up 20% or something like that. So it's not anything crazy just on the garage auto portion. So it's not like, oh, your rate's going to be doubled or your rate's going to be tripled. Like that's not.
That's what I'm scared about.
Yeah. Like a lot of the time in personal lines, they have like defined like, oh, you have a claims free discount, and then they remove it because you had a claim or something like that
Yeah.
happens. Commercial insurance different, but then it's also on me as a broker is like, for me having the volume discount and having all these volume with the companies, if something doesn't seem right where you put through a claim, I can say, hey, like, come on, buddy, like let's work on this. Cause like I had a guy put in a claim for a vehicle. I think they paid out like I think he paid out about $9,000, and I think his premium went up like $50 a year or something like that. So it wasn't anything crazy.
Right.
So for you guys, like if you have 2 or 3 in a row, like that's a different story. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, it's best to speak with someone who knows about claims, knows about the industry. And like most of the time for you guys, someone who can get it done pretty cheap because you're in the industry and things like that.
Yeah, and they all owe us favors.
Yeah, they all owe you a favor, right? Absolutely. So it's a worthwhile conversation. So my advice to you guys would be that if there is everything that happens, you can always give your broker or whoever a call, and we're happy to have a conversation with you to see if it makes sense to put it through or not.
And the biggest thing that made a difference between you and the other one is when I called the other one before, he acted like I was a hassle every time I called him. But now I don't really call you because we just started. But also, I don't feel the need I have to call you. Like, so if I call you, it's like, okay, I'm working for you. It's almost like your accountant. You want an accountant that when you call them, they're proactive. Okay, tax season's coming up. Do this, 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 and that. Not the guy on December 31st goes, well, you're screwed. Like, I want the proactive guy. I want the guy where I can look at and he's like so happy to talk to me. He's like, okay, so that's what we're going to do. This makes sense for the customer. This makes sense for you. This makes sense for me. Where are we going to fall in the middle? We don't know. But you have, because it makes you feel like you have an expert. It's like the lawyer. I don't want the guy that, is sitting on the bus stop looking for customers as a lawyer. I want the one that's on the billboard, on the buses, all that. It's the same type of thing. You want the professional. And that's kind of where you fell into place.
Do detailers need insurance if, let's say, they're mobile? Detailers need insurance, but if they're mobile or like as a side hustle, or if they're doing it from home, I feel like
for me, like as a broker, for doing that way, insurance when it comes to detailing operations, comes to things. We want to look at you from a whole risk management point of view. And insurance is always the last resort, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're a mobile detailer, if you're doing the thing, I would say absolutely, you're working on other people's vehicles, accident happened. Yes, you need an insurance policy. Is it the same policy that you guys need because you have a shop? Absolutely not, right? Like, you only need 50,000 for one vehicle at a time that you're working on. You need the less insurance for that. But I do recommend guys to have it. At the end of the day, I also understand it's a business expense and it's not mandatory, right, for people to do that. Unless you're actually driving customers' vehicles, pulling them out on the road and things like that, then it's more mandatory to do that because actually when a garage employee or someone like you guys are moving a customer's vehicle, the auto policy actually, the customer's auto policy excludes garage people working on the vehicle. So unless you have a garage policy, that would fall back on you as like an individual for that. So that's why it's important to have that coverage. So the answer to that is, I think yes, but it's at a reduced limit that a garage policy would be, where people are they're not just in and outs, where they're storing vehicles, where they're doing like PPF and it's letting cure and different things like that.
It's a good answer. So like the setup I had before was behind a house, and that's probably why the guy tried to only give me general liability. Is I'd work on 1 or 2 cars a day. They would go on the street, so I would back him out onto the street and I'd back him in the driveway. And what he told me was, he goes, well, as long as you check both ways for you back out, you'll be okay. I'm like, okay. Well, explaining, yeah. This is the other thing, is get a quote for insurance. Like, I was so scared when I got my first insurance. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like $1,000 a month. I'm thinking like I'm gonna be spending all this money. And then I get my quotes even before. I'm like, oh, this is reasonable. Like, this is one detail, not even. This is one detail a month or whatever. I'm like, this is totally. And the other thing is, you never think mistakes are gonna happen until they do. So like for me, for example, I never had to use my insurance policies ever. Never have. Have I had reasons that like anything that's ever happened kind of always happened at the right time, or I've never had it. Now, I've been lucky. Do I really want to start testing that and saying like, something happens. That's what we were talking today. We're working on a deal with a big company where we might be driving a lot more vehicles. And that's what my employee said, like, are you worried about that? I said, well, there's a few things we're going to do. I mean, we're going to put dash cams, like get a mirror dash cam. We can just clip on the mirror. And that's just to protect my employees. So if someone does hit them, it's not their fault. At least there's something where I can show. It's not really for insurance purposes. I mean, if that would help, great. But it's more so for me to show the company, like, okay, they actually were driving correctly. So someone drove into them. Like, I mean, how am I going to prevent that? So my employee was driving a truck 2 days ago, and she goes, I was turning left, and someone hit another car right in front of me. I'm like, that's my point. Like, that's why we need to, because every employee that gets in an accident says it's not my fault. Well, the company's going to say, well, of course, like, it's not going to, no one in an accident's like, yeah, it was my fault. I hit him on purpose. That's never an accident. Like, that doesn't happen. So it kind of, that's the thing where, but with insurance, I'm confident that, okay, we don't plan for it to happen. No one ever plans. I mean, I've been in an accident. No one plans to be in an accident. But when it happens, it's nice to know you have the protection that, okay, I'm okay. I have protection here. And then you kind of go into, okay, now what does this pathway look like? Which is kind of, we kind of went over that quickly. And, you know, what got you into the detailing side? So, like, do you detail cars? Like, so, because that's a very unique industry. Like, so I've never heard of an insurance company. Like, so when I go on your website, I have my employee get a quote. He's like, they do like massage therapist stuff. They do this. They do. What kind of guy is this? Like, I'm like, he's a professional. Like, he's just good at what he does. So, how did you like figure out car detailing? And it's not just like automotive. Yours is like, I do car detailers insurance. How did you get into it?
We also own garage-insurance.ca.com. We own car dash detailing, everything like that for the SEO and all that other stuff too. But honestly, what happened was I was working at a previous office, and for them, they're a larger company. So a lot of the time they had leads come in online. And there was a few times when a car detailer came in, and when it came to the car detailing, you know, I was working with seasoned people that have been doing it for 5, 10, 15 years. And they would pick it up and they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what limit to do just because of the garage auto. Because when you look at the applications, and I'm sure you guys sent over, like, they're long that you have to fill out and because it's all regulated by the government. No one knew what to do. They're like, I don't want to do this. I don't know do this. I don't know what limit to do, right? Going through and doing that. So I was like, you know what? I'll sit down and I'm going to walk through this. So I ended up walking through a couple of them for the detailing. And I was like, this is actually like pretty straightforward, right? Like from an insurance perspective for doing it. And I was like, you know, these guys, they're doing some cool things. Like, you know, the businesses, you know, a lot of the time, you know, detailing, you know, I talk with a lot of operations, and, you know, everyone has their twist on detailing for ceramic coating, for other things like that, different contracts. At the end of the day, they're detailing, and part of that is, you know, finding a solution for people. And the other part that really drew me to it is you guys are very much a service focused, being on social media all the time, doing that stuff. And, you know, you're familiar with Google AdWords, you're familiar with dealing with people online. So connecting with you is so much easier because you can make posts, you create an Instagram page, and you guys are there, and I can connect with you. Like, you know, I have some friends that own businesses, and we'll go away for a weekend, and it starts getting a joke that, you know, people will start, you know, scam callers will start calling them saying, hey, buy this from me, buy this, right? So businesses are getting harder and harder to get a hold of. But if you can connect with them through social media and things like that, and Google AdWords when they need them, it was something that we were able to target and, you know, automate our marketing and sales funnel. It's harder to automate on the back end when you talk about, you know, dealing with insurance companies, dealing with billing, dealing with all that other stuff. But we try to, you know, make it as automated as possible to get there. But these other programs we have, you know, for massage therapists, for yoga, hearing practitioners, for beauticians, we've been able to take what we use for those other programs and apply them to detailing, and vice versa, and go around. So, like, the formula is there. You just copy and paste for a lot of the marketing and, you know, automations and things like that. And the guys I work with, like, we use Typeform when you guys come in and you get quotes online, you get the type form where you get everyone's information. You use Zapier, we use HubSpot. And well, now there's a lot more different APIs that you can plug into when we're dealing with payment issues. Like we're automatically connected to like Stripe, Bambora. There's all these systems that we use for the automatic payment and things like that. And, you know, for us, it was like a great opportunity because it is an underutilized area of the detailing, but the sales funnel was easy to automate.
You're not just an insurance guy, brother. Like that's what I mean. Like, so everything about this, and I'm not gonna keep like praising you, but everything about it was easy. Where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I had an invoice literally within a second. Like, I'm like, okay, here's your credit card. Type it in. Put the insurance. You know, put this in. It's gonna auto bill you. I'm like, and then like, so my insurance policy was ending, I think, in 3 months before. So I was quite early, but I was so amped up about this damn insurance. I was so excited about it that I didn't even think about the transition. It's like my transition was in July or June or something. I didn't even think about it. It's just, oh, you got a bill from whatever insurance. I'm like, oh, that was easy. Like I didn't even think about it. I had all the paperwork. It was just flawless. You talk about automation in your business, and this is where my brain always is. How much of that has made your business easier?
Depends. No, I'm just kidding. So the reason why I say it is because we implemented a new system that we're going to, like a version 2 for one of our programs. So the answer to the question now is it's a pain because we're implementing something new and because it's change and you're doing that stuff. But as overall, it's made things so much easier because I think a lot of the time, especially in an industry like insurance, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of administrative tasks that they're going back and forth. If we can automate all those things, the marketing, the funnels and all that other stuff, it gives me the opportunity to have the conversation with you about, you know, I'm happy for you to call me because, you know, the system's doing a lot of the work because, you know, we can have the conversation. I'm not drowning in work. And the other part of the automation is, you know, for us, like our operation that we have, there's 4 of us and that's it. There's 4 guys working and we do like for us and that's it. You know, the owner of the brokerage is a 62-year-old guy who programs everything. He's in the back end. He does the programming. He does everything. But then he'll pick up the phone and call clients and do all that stuff because we're all in it together and we're building this thing. But part of it is, you know, because you bring those automations in place, you're able to work on the business, which I think a lot of the time is a struggle because if you're, you know, stuck in the trenches, you know, actually working in the business, you know, for you guys doing the detailing, doing things like that, it's harder for you guys to expand into other things and to focus on making things more efficient and signing, you know, new contracts, you know, starting new things like tinting, or if you guys get into, you know, rust proofing or other things like that as well.
I want to go off topic real quick because this is when I knew that Nick, you were locked in with my name on your desk all the time forever. And as long as I'm in business, you're gonna be the guy who's giving me insurance advice. So
you're so lucky.
Hey, you're lucky I found you. Out there again for the 4th time. But anyway, so my old car was going through some stuff, and everybody's telling me sell it. So I was like, screw it, sold it, whatever. I just sold it, and my now is on vacation, so I'm driving this car. So I started looking for cars, blah blah blah. I text Nick. I go, hey, like, I don't know, forget what I asked you, and then you gave me something. You're like, yeah, just get me a VIN number, and we'll see. Okay, text. They start going on online and start texting random VINs to Nick. He's like, okay, call me when you get one, like that you actually want. It's like, okay. But
the problem.
So it's just like three cars you quoted for me. Like, oh shoot, this guy is like on it, like within an hour, and like you're busy, dude. And you know, I understand. But anyway, so I eventually found the one that was in the price range, and I was like, you know what? I feel like a lot of people have this question. I'm gonna put it into the business. It made sense for me in the situations and the things that I'm going through, and I was like, I'm gonna put it into the business. So I was like, okay. And then I was all nervous. The dealership guy's asking me a million questions. He starts saying the wrong things. He's telling me the wrong things. So I call you up. I was like, hey, got you a VIN. Get me a quote. I'm like, okay. Then he called me. Tell me the price and blah, blah, blah. And then I asked you, I was like, So how does this work? How does writing a business on your insurance under the company work? Like, I was so confused, so scared. Dealership got it all wrong, and I'm just gonna put this out there. Nick was emailing them for what, a week, because they kept messing it up. He kept emailing him. He's like, "Yeah, nope, change this," and you're on it. And like, if it was me, I would have looked at the paper and just picked up the car. And you're like, "No, this is done. This is wrong. This is wrong. Change this. Change that." And I'm like, "Holy bro, this guy got me!" Like, this. But explain that a little bit.
Well, it really comes down to like repetition. Being like you guys talked about, oh, I'm a specialist in this. Oh, I specialize in this. Like, like for me, this week I'm dealing with another detailer where he's signing a lease somewhere in Toronto, and the landlord is saying you need like a pollution policy, and you need to put this in place as part of the lease agreement. And I'm like, because I've seen so many lease agreements from detailers or from other things, I can say, like, that doesn't sound right. And on the last 4 guys that have had this requirement, we've been able to remove all of them. So, hey, this is what you say to your agent or whatever that was. And we're able to save them, let's say, $3,000 or something a year for doing that. And that's really when it comes to dealing with the insurance, or, talking about accounting and stuff, as someone who specializes and knows the industry. And like, when something doesn't sound right or something's off, like for that lender, for example, that we deal with, like, I've dealt with them in the past and I've dealt with the same issues. I know what to look for. And you say, hey, come on, like, let's figure this out and let's move on with their day. But, it's just part of the job for us. And, you guys pay insurance premiums. For us as brokers, like, we get a commission and we get paid to give you guys advice. And you pay us to use our expertise. And really at the end of the day, like, I know it sounds cliche, but that's my job to do that.
So what you just got, or what he said was, if you have a crappy insurance broker, get a new one. Because exactly. I've been with a ton. I've been with multiple. And there's a lot where I'm like, you sign with them, you never hear from them again. They're just gone. Or if you have a question, like, I don't know. And then they just kind of, let you know. They never reach back out to you again. Find someone that's good. It's like what he just said. Ercan, he's dealing with this new car. It's pain in the butt. And then Nick was able to kind of ease him through the process. Isn't that what you want? You want someone that has your back and says, okay, this isn't legal. This isn't legal. This isn't legal. Do this, do this, do this. And then the dealership's like, oh, you expect them to be the professionals. No, they're not. So, and that's what happens. It's like that all the time. Even with the MTO. I mean, there's been stuff where I've asked my other insurance guy, and he's like, okay, for this plate, you need this, and the MTO might do this, they might do that. It's kind of different. Depends on what service Ontario you go to. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so confused.
What service Ontario you go to?
Yeah, like, so for example, and you're going to probably, this is with the other insurance broker, but you're probably going to talk some smack. So I said, I need a service plate. He's like, okay. I'm like, I need insurance for that plate. He goes, no, you don't need insurance. He goes, just get the plate, then I'm going to insure it. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Why would they issue me a plate if I don't have insurance? He goes, no, that's just how it works. I'm like, okay. So I go to Service Ontario. They have all this stupid paperwork you have to do. I went there 3 different times in a day. Literally, like, I was right. Yeah. I spent 3 hours there. Like, I was right. I don't do any extracurricular drugs, but I was thinking about it after this whole process. Like, honestly. So anyway, I get to the last time. They're about to close. And then they're like, do you have insurance? I'm like, no. Like, not for this plate. Well, you need insurance. Call the guy up right in the line. Thank God he answered. I'm like, I need my policy number right now. They won't give me the plate. I have all the paperwork. Oh, yeah, one sec. Pulls over on the side of the road, gives me my number. It's like, yeah, it's not really insured yet, but they can't see that. So just do this. Don't drive a car for a day. I'm like, dude, like, what are we doing here? Like, so it was a mess. It was a mess. So when you have back to all this rambling, when you have someone who's in your corner, it just makes it easier, and he knows everything you need, and it's not like a different thing. This guy was supposed to be before an automotive specialist. He was not. I can tell you just that story alone. Let's kind of go off a little bit because, insurance isn't sexy. Let's not lie. Let's hear about all this stuff, like the deep, dark secrets of things that happened to detailers or whatever, that kind of, they were thankful that they had insurance. but kind of like you've been doing it for a while, I would assume, kind of stories of maybe like something happened in their business, or like kind of what insurance prevented them from paying or whatever.
Give me horror stories.
Yeah, no, Andrew, I just wanted to say I get that service plate question so many times that I now have a template in my Outlook that I just send to people. I say, here's a link. This is what you need. Let me know when you need to slip, and then you move on with their day. So we do get that question a lot because, again, a lot of people don't understand A, how insurance works, B, let alone a service plate. And they're just like, oh, I'm going to sign a contract with the dealer. I need to get a service plate. But then they don't understand, like, hey, this is a process. This is what you need. And then you go from there. So anyways, crazy stories. So I'll keep it garage related. So I think that the number one when it comes to garages and it comes to the employees is, or when it comes to garages is, from an insurance perspective, for you guys as owners, as operators, a lot of the time, you're a lot more, you can be careful, you're diligent because it's your business, your name's on the door and all that stuff. It's when you have to start dealing with employees. And for them, and like, in a lot of the times it's, the employee did this, employee did that. So there was a recent one where it was somewhere in the GTA area, and I get a call from the insured, and he says, oh, my employee was driving a customer's vehicle and just rear-ended a bus that was stopped. So the vehicle, it was like $15,000 worth of damage, went underneath for the bus and all that other stuff. And he asked his employee, so like, were you on your phone? He's like, no, I wasn't on my phone. No, I wasn't. And he went to the shop later that day. And what did he have on his face? He had a cell phone mark right along the cheek where the airbag came out and hit. So clearly you could see he was on his phone like this with the bruise on his face. So needless to say, he was terminated that day.
Oh my God.
Damn.
But like a lot of times too, like a lot more that you hear about are vehicles being dropped off and then, parts are taken. I've had people where they leave a vehicle out, someone breaks the window and takes the airbag. And that's the only thing that they take because they're worth a lot of money, and which is really weird. Yeah, converters, people love going underneath. They leave them out, right? They cut out the converter. They kind of move on. But it's interesting because that's an interesting one because a lot of the time, if someone drops off their vehicles and there is no key exchange, it's hard to prove that the vehicle was in the garage's care, custody, and control. So where I've seen claims is that actually goes under the car owner's vehicle for that because the vehicle is not in your care, custody, and control. So if you guys were driving it and someone stole it or, it was parked inside, something like that, that's a different story. But like open lot theft, if someone came in and it wasn't really in your care, it's hard to prove that, you guys had care, custody, control of the vehicle.
Now, is it different? So let's say the customer drops off, puts the key in the box. Okay. Mm-hmm. What if we work on it and then we put the key in a lock box and then lock it into the box and then something happens to the car? Is it in our control or is it in?
Again, I don't want to say one thing. It depends on, the situation and what's going on. But like at the end of the day, the reason why you buy insurance is if stuff like that does happen,
protects you,
and it kind of protects you as a business. And like you said, for some people, if they can't pick up their car till later, you leave it in the lockbox. That's great. At least you're not leaving it, in the gas cap or something like that.
No, right? Thank God. No,
I've done that once.
Of course you have. See, this is what I'm telling you. You're so lucky to insure him. And what's interesting about my shop is because people say that, oh, your employees, I'm the worst one. I've only had the damage. I have an at-fault claim. I have literally out of every of them, they have nothing. They have nothing. Like they've never done anything. They don't have any bad tickets. They don't have nothing. I am literally the worst one on that insurance, and I'm the owner.
Yeah, he doesn't look left when he leaves his parking lot. Let's just say.
Yeah, that was the whole other. We don't even be talking about that.
No, but like at the end of the day, stuff happens, right? And that's why you have insurance, right? Mm-hmm. And I think there is a stigma for a lot of people saying, hey, if you call, hey, if you do this, it's going to affect me negatively. I can't have these conversations. But again, reiterate, not just in insurance, but as a business owner, it's important to deal with people that are experts in their space and what they're doing. And for me, like my job again is to advise you for whatever situation. And like my biggest thing is like, hey, like let's have a conversation and see what the best path forward is. Because sometimes, if you have a conversation, your nerves get calm, you can kind of chat about that, and we can kind of go through next steps and because I feel like, I was talking to a detailer this past week, he's been in operation for 20, 30 years. And it was the first time ever the latch wasn't done properly on a vehicle that he was like the front latch. He detailed a vehicle. The latch for the hood wasn't done properly, was leaving, and, the hatch flew up and shattered the windshield and broke thing. For him is something so minor that you don't think about it. And it wasn't latched properly. He's like, I've been in operation for 30 years. Nothing has ever happened. But it just, he was driving. He gave me a call. I said, no, hey, your deductible is $1,000, right? Anything above and beyond, the adjuster is going to call you this. We're going to do this. All of it happened. And, it was settled within a week. So it's like, it's pretty straightforward. And, it's important to, have someone on your side to advocate through that claims process.
Well, it makes it easier. And like, let's say my personal insurance, I have another friend who has personal insurance and she can't insure me for my business. She's of the same mindset where, like, when I had my claims, someone's hit my car, like while I was parked, and it was just easy. It's like, okay, like you go to this company because it's not like a broker, it's an actual company. You talk to our claims department, and then it goes back to me, and then I look at it and make sure it makes sense. When you have someone who's looking it over and saying, okay, like do this, we're changing your policy, this makes sense. The other thing that detailers don't think about is our operations change. Like the amount of cars we work on, if we're doing different services, if you have more contents, like let's say I just got a plotter, it's obviously a lot of money. That's obviously going to change my policy. Or let's say I start offering classes, like, I got to change my insurance, I'm sure, or we talk about it. When you just start doing things and not talking your insurance, and they're like, oh, I have insurance. You really don't, because if you're not protected for certain things that you're doing, it's going to have a problem. Your insurance broker should be like your best buddy. So it's like, hey, guess what I just added to my business? He should be the first guy you call. He's like, okay, so that actually falls under this. You need to up this. You need to up this. You need to put this down. We don't need this as much. That's who you want to talk to, because when something happens, I don't want the call where it's like, so you didn't tell me about this, and now you're not covered. I want the, okay, we're good to go. Everything's done. Woo!
Yeah, no, it's interesting because like I even have guys like I've called all the time where people call, they're like, I want to start detailing airplanes. Oh, I want to start detailing boats in the water. I want to start doing all these things. And like, the one guy I was talking to, he's like, I've been dealing with 4 different brokers and they can't figure out this aviation insurance. They can't do all this other stuff. I was like, okay. So I had a conversation with him, got the information, and like I got him a quote within 2 days because I knew what to ask for, right, for all this stuff. And it's like $1,500 or something like that for the aviation insurance. So again, there's a lot of things that people are scared to ask, but like at the end of the day, like for him to cover, an airplane when you're detailing it or something like that for $1,500, that I think for my job as a broker for doing that is to be a part, like to help you guys grow your business. So like, as you grow, as you get into other operations and things like that, my job is not to say, no, you can't do that. Right. It's like, how can we figure out, how can we create a plan, a risk management plan to help you grow? Like Andrew, like for example, like, you talked about doing the fleet where you're going to do the dash cam. Like that's a fantastic, like doing proactive, doing that on your own. Like that's awesome that you're doing that. A lot of shops wouldn't even think to get in to do that. So like those are the things where like, if you're proactive, you're doing that stuff, like let's help you and, figure out ways that you can grow and, make sure that everything is covered properly.
And yeah, that's a perfect way to think and kind of go about that. And the camera idea, it wasn't really much for my liability. It's more so it's more so for me to keep the contract. Because let's say, because I never drove cars before. It's something in my business I didn't want to do. It's the kind of a last case scenario. It's a lot of liability. It's nonsense where someone's car blows up, so they put oil in it for 5 years, and then for whatever reason we touch it and it blows up. Now it's our fault. I don't want to touch it, and that's why I didn't. I was insured. We wouldn't. So now we're kind of going into it. I wanted to make sure that if something ever did happen, 'cause I mean, like, being the one that's been in the accident, not on my company's insurance, but me, if it was my boss's car, I'd be very upset, and they'd probably be upset, and so you literally just drove into somebody. You want that where I can show the customer and say, "Hey, like, someone drove into them." Like, there's nothing we could have done to make this process better. It's like security in my shop. We try and do the most amount of security that we can in terms of what makes sense. What are we doing? How many sensors do we have? Do we have glass break sensors? Do we have cameras? We try and do everything. So if something did happen, nothing's ever happened. If something does, I can say, listen, I did X, Y, Z. It's monitored. I was called at this time. The police were dispatched at this time. They got here at this time. Here is the time when this happened. Here's all the video feed. We have 8 cameras. They're all looking at everything that's happening. Here, and hand it right to them. They're like, oh, because now you have a customer for life where it's like, I did my best to protect your asset. I can't, someone will drive through a garage door. I mean, like, there's nothing, I can't put like bricks in front of it to try and, I mean, but you can't. So it's all about like kind of where my brain thinks is, like, I've had people, can you detail my private jet? I'm like, no way. I'm not touching it. I don't want to even look at it. Because obviously it runs into a chemical nightmare too, because there's certain, I don't know airplanes. I don't know nothing about airplanes. So it's like, I can't touch certain things because they're instruments, and then the airplane falls. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And yeah, so it's $1,500. That's not bad to have airplane insurance.
No, it's not. And the same thing, like, you have guys, up in Muskokas who, detail boats, like some expensive boats, and they do it in the water, right? Like, having coverage in place for that, like, even if it's, these guys' revenues aren't crazy, right? That's kind of what they're starting out at. But like, I think it's big and scary because a lot of people, people don't understand how to insure things properly, and where to even start and ask the right questions, right? Like, if you come to me, I think I prefaced that this morning, like, you get calls from guys, oh yeah, I detail motorcycles all the time. I detail motorcycles. I need coverage for that. I said, okay, how many have you done in the last year? 4 of them. I was like, okay, so it's like incidental. It's not your main source of revenue. They're like, yeah. I said, if you talk to anyone else, they would assume, oh, that's all you do is you all do motorcycles. But again, it's about figuring out, what you actually do. Because I don't know, dealing with a lot of operations across Ontario is, like I said, everyone does things a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, it's
the same.
It's the same. Yeah. Some guys, they might say, oh, I went to this training for 3 days, and I went to this training for 2 days for the coding or something like that, right? At the end of the day, like, it's I don't know, it's detailing.
Our finish, no, but our goal is to give the customer the value. If you go to mine or Ercan shop, the car is shiny and it leaves, and that's what we're going for. So yeah, we might have different techniques how to get there. The end goal should be the same.
But I think what makes shops different is the experience on how to get there, right? Because some shops might say, oh yeah, quick in and out, they won't talk to you, won't do all that stuff. But if you create a process where people say, hey, I want to come back, or hey, I want to buy a gift card for my dad for his Father's Day or something like that because I had such a good experience, that's what's going to get them back. Same thing for insurance brokers. Like, for us, there's thousands of them in Ontario for doing that stuff. We all have access to the same insurance companies. It's all the same thing, but it's important to have that customer experience, and not just in the beginning. It's to repetitive and to keep it, to keep that expectation going and meeting or exceeding that expectation continuously.
If you guys have watched the podcast for a while, he just pretty much reiterate what I preach to you guys all the time about you're an experience-based business. You're not a car detailer. Yeah. You're all about customer service and making that process nice and easy. And we're going to kind of finish the episode on that note. Again, Nick, Advantage Insurance Brokers. If you're in Ontario or Alberta, which, by the way, I'm going to have Paul reach out to because he's in Alberta, hit him up. Come on, trust me. Just even if you're like, I'm the best insurance guy ever, even if you think, even if you do, just ask for a quote. He'll gladly give it to you, and he'll probably, read out to you in the next day, and you'll have a price. You're like, whoa, my guy sucks compared to this guy. You're going to like it's exactly what I thought. So again, please like, subscribe. Nick, it was awesome having you on. I'm so happy we're able to do this. We haven't had any insurance people on, and you gave tons of good information. Have a great rest of your week, and talk to you soon.